Good morning. Guess what day it is? It's November 9th, 2024. And there are a couple of things going on today. It's National Fried Chicken Sandwich Day, which you may want to consider for lunch. But it's also World Freedom Day. World Freedom Day is a U.S. federal observance declared by then President George W. Bush to commemorate the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of communist rule in Central and Eastern Europe. Now, I am not a history buff, and I really didn't know that much about the Berlin Wall, so I want to share some things with you about the Berlin Wall. It existed for 28 years, from 1961 to 1989. It was built by the East German government. It was 27 miles long and 12 feet high. So why was there a wall? Well, after World War II, the victorious Allies, known as the Four Powers, set up occupation zones in Germany. The Soviets were in the east, and the Americans, British people, and French were in the west. So in the western half, there was freedom. But in the eastern half, there was communism and no freedom. Unlike their fellow subjects elsewhere in the Soviet-dominated Europe, East Germans could look next door and see freedom. They could see their prosperous counterparts. They had culture and language and maybe even relatives that lived next door, but their life was totally different on the east side of the wall. Berlin was a place where people wanted to get out, East Berlin. It says in 1960 alone, nearly 200,000 East Germans left for West Germany. And it says that a lot of those were the younger people, the business people, the people who were smarter, the people who were the scientists and people like that. But East Germany did not want them to leave. So their solution was on August 13th, 1961, at 1 o'clock in the morning, they put a boundary between the two halves of Berlin, and checkpoints and the surrounding region of Brandenburg were sealed off. At first, rows of barbed wire were installed, guarded by soldiers of the East German Army and police. They were soon replaced by 2-meter-high barbed wire fences. In the densely built-up center of Berlin, walls and doors of buildings bordering the western sector were bricked up as guards prevented residents from escaping. Despite the growing wall, the number of those attempting to flee to the west continued to climb. Many paid with their lives. On August 23rd, the wall claimed the first of over 130 victims in its lifespan. Wow. That reminds me of a story in the Bible. It's in Luke chapter 16, verses 19 through 31, and I want to read it to you. Luke chapter 16, beginning with verse 19. There was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. But there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, full of sores, who laid at his gate, desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. So it was that the beggar died, and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And being in torments in Hades, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. Then he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in the water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted and you are tormented. And besides all this, between us and you there is a great gulf fixed, so that those who would pass from here to you cannot, nor can those from there pass to us. Then he said, I beg you therefore, Father, that you would send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may testify to them, lest they also come to this place of torment. Abraham said to him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, No, Father Abraham, but if one goes to them from the dead, they will repent. But he said to them, If they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rise from the dead. Like the Berlin Wall that went up overnight, death will come to each person, and they'll find themselves on one side or the other of that great gulf, which cannot be crossed. Today, I want to challenge you to encourage those that you know are not ready to meet the Lord, those who don't have the freedom of life eternal, that they might come to Jesus today and be free. So thank God today for your freedom, the freedom of the people in Berlin, the freedom that you enjoy in this country, and if you're a Christian, your freedom from sin, but also remember those who are still on the wrong side of the gulf, and bid them to come while they have a chance.